Yeah, so like I thought, this is gonna take a while. So through the magic of video, let's just speed this up.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah from Ugly Duckling House. Today's video is all about episode 6 of Ruby's Revival, our 1946 Spartan Manor restoration project. We've got our hands on a 1946 Spartan Manor vintage camper, and boy oh boy has it seen better days. Decades of neglect and damage and being used as an old workshop. So now we are trying to bring it back to life and live in it someday, maybe. We'll see. We've gotten to one of the best chapters of any DIY remodeling project, demo. Demo! Demo. That is probably the only time you'll hear me sing other than under my breath. Demo is just such a special part of our project. It really just inspires me to get my imagination working for me, get the creativity flowing, and having that fresh, clean slate just makes that happen. The fact that I get to break out some tools and start breaking stuff doesn't hurt at all. So let's start by taking you back to when this actually all went down. Kyle was working on the exterior and I decided, well, since he had that pretty much under control and I didn't really want to do more of it, I wanted to move on to something that was also going to be labor intensive, but I was much more into. The demo happened over the course of several months when we would take trips out to Ruby to the lot that it was parked at. I would go on the inside while Kyle was working on the polish, which you saw in episode 5. When Kyle's parents gave us the camper, it was still full of stuff. Stuff that they either didn't want to keep and wanted us to give away for them, stuff that they wanted Kyle to look through to see whether or not he wanted to keep them before giving them away, old toys, old tools, just a lot of stuff. And so we had boxes and boxes of that to clear out. Once we did that though, it was time to get started on tearing out all of the damage. Now of course with any type of demo work, you need to be safe and cautious and use your better judgment when it comes to wearing protective gear. I was pregnant at the time, so I fully suited up with as much as possible. I wore long sleeves and pants to protect myself from getting covered in any dust and debris that I didn't know what I was messing with. I even wore a cap on my head because I didn't want any of that stuff falling into my hair. I've never torn apart a vintage camper before, and I didn't know what pieces I would need to keep, what pieces I could toss, what would be important later on. So I decided kind of a list of things to keep in mind as I was tearing things out. 1, everything that's inside of that camper is fitted to those curves. Curves in the ceiling, curves in the corners, curves on the sides. There's a lot that we might have to fit around in order to make this work for us, and we might have to do a lot of custom fitting. So I figured hanging on to at least pieces of things that have those curves in them could be used later on as templates. 2, old hardware. The stage we're in right now is we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if we're going to use the same hardware. We don't know if that hardware is valuable because there may not be a lot of it out there. Even though there's going to be so much new, I think it would add to the charm to have some original pieces. So I'm hanging on to that stuff even though I don't know if we actually need it. The other side of that is I don't know if those pieces are rare enough that other people might find value in them and need them for their restoration projects. And if we wind up using that hardware, what if we need one more piece that we don't have? It's possible to use the existing stuff as a template or send it off to a specialty maker who could possibly make a duplicate. 3rd, I'm hanging on to all the wood that I think I can salvage. We don't necessarily know what was used in this camper when it was a workshop. We don't know if there's solvents on things or just plain damage that can't be undone. But there are a few pieces that I managed to save that I tore out that I think could be used for something in the future. I don't think necessarily that we'll reuse it inside the camper, but I do think that it could be used for something like keepsakes, something that is unique to Ruby. Because I love to do woodworking and I love to do scrap wood projects, I'm thinking that there might be some salvage projects that I can create from this. That means that I could open up a shop and you could get your hands on your very own piece of Ruby. Just an idea I'm kicking around for right now, and I will share that with you when it becomes available. And of course, there'll probably be a video of me making those projects. The more I tore out, the more I learned about how the camper was built previously. And I've learned from tearing my house apart that as I tear something apart, I get a better idea of how it's actually constructed, which was very helpful in terms of thinking about what we might do when we want to build something for the camper in the future. Now, because this is a camper, there's also metal ribbing on the inside that could be screwed into any of the pieces I'm trying to hammer out. So I tried to be mindful of exactly how I was extracting everything. There was a stainless steel countertop in there, and I don't know whether or not we're going to wind up using that in the future, but might as well save it for now. I ripped out the cabinets and started working on the thin plywood shell that covered over all the insulation. 1946 was the first year that the Spartan Manors were created, and I believe that was the only year in which all the walls were lined with a very thin layer of mahogany. But as you can see, it was painted over, it was marked up, it was damaged, it had water damage. It all unfortunately needed to go. There was really no hope of keeping it. There were so many screws and so many different types of screws. Phillips head, flat head, Large, small, I kept having to change bits so much that eventually I just got sick of it and just started tearing. I knew that we were pretty much gonna have to strip everything down to the guts, so why not? There was minimal electrical behind the walls as well, so most of that was on the exterior that I could already see and just rip out.
This is the insulation I've been pulling out, and I'm going to have to share some more details about this, but it's actually like wood fiber. It's still not something I want to breathe in, so I've definitely been wearing my mask, but just in case anybody's going to ask me, no, this does not contain asbestos. I've looked it up and it does not, so yay!
Once I tore out that plywood, I got to the insulation. I knew that everything lining the walls had not been touched since the camper was made, so that meant that the insulation was original too. Most of it was in just tiny little pieces and falling apart, but there were a few labels and branding that I could see on it that gave me a little bit of a clue as to whether or not I would need to be worried about it. I did what anybody would do, and I just simply started researching whether or not it was dangerous, if it could have possibly asbestos. I just didn't know. And turns out, good news, no asbestos, and I could dispose of it quite easily.
Would you follow me, or would you let it be? If I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy, or would you stay with me now till the morning light? Before you turn away, I just want you to know that I didn't throw your stuff away.
As it warmed up outside, it started getting really hot, too hot for me to work with my pregnant belly. Luckily, Kyle works in an office space that has a workshop behind it and large bay doors where we could actually back Ruby into that space and work in a much more comfortable environment, at least for an afternoon. Because we wanted to use as most of the time as we had as possible, I tried to get all of the rest of the demo done in that one day. During the summer months, keeping myself better protected was a little bit trickier as I was very pregnant and hot, and I didn't really want to wear anything long sleeves in Georgia in the summertime. Disposal was also not super convenient because there was no dumpster right next to where we were working. We were working on both the rented lot that we had and then also in that bay that Kyle has in the back of his office. So we had to keep everything squeaky clean once I finished the demo work. So I had to take everything piece by piece, put it into the truck, and then go find a place and dispose of it. With everything falling apart into tiny pieces, it wasn't necessarily the easiest to dispose of everything, but we got it done. In other words, I got a lot of dirt dumped down my shirt. But demo is still my favorite, even when I have to take 3 showers to get everything off me.
Maybe I'm just too weak, maybe I'm just afraid of being alone. Well, I don't care, cause right now I feel the love that we said we would burn. Oh, I know that you feel it too. I know that I told you we're over. I swear that I'm sober. Just listen, I miss you. And I know that I said all these things, but now when you're with her, I can see that you miss me. Would you stay till the morning light, or would you follow me, or would you let it be? If I leave tonight, we could do this right. We'll find the remedy, or would you stay with me now till the morning light? Stay till the morning light, or would you follow me, or would you let it be? If I leave tonight.
So that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, leave them below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and be back again for episode 7. I don't actually know what that episode's gonna be about yet, but we are in the middle of finalizing the plans for what the interior is going to look like, and as soon as that's done, I hope to share that with you. And according to Kyle, we have 46 steps that we have to do to complete this camper, so some of that is also going to be something I can share with you next time. If you enjoyed this video, and if you have any comments, if you have any questions that you need answered, please leave a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notifications bell so that you get a notification the next time another episode drops. Subscribing and leaving a comment is one of the best ways to let us know that you want to see more of these episodes. I, for one, am so thrilled that you guys are along for this journey, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
I told you we're over. I swear that I'm sober. Just listen.